As some of you may recall, I mentioned at youth camp earlier this year that I wanted to preach at youth. It may have taken 6 and a bit months and a pretty major injury, but here I am. Show of hands, who here likes sport? I know I do, it's a lot of fun. All right, show of hands, who here dislikes injuries? I should see everyone's hands. Injuries suck. Well, for myself, I'm a massive fan of sport, but mainly soccer, and for the crazed fans in the room, football. I was keen for the upcoming season playing with my mates, and we just started training. Back on the 12th of March, I'd arrived for my first training of the year, and we were playing a friendly game against another team. I copped a trailing leg in a tackle and rolled my ankle. Has anyone here ever rolled their ankle? Do you know that feeling? You stop walking, you fall over, it sucks. Well, for the most part when you roll it, it hurts for a bit, but you're good to go back. Well, unfortunately for me, this wasn't one of those. This was a season-ending injury in pre-season. It took 2 weeks because the medical system in Australia is amazing, but we eventually found out what was wrong. I'd torn 3 ligaments and ripped one off the bone. I'm about to show some photos of my ankle. If you don't want to, don't look, but this first photo, this was taken a day after I injured myself. As you can see, the swelling's already progressed about a quarter way up my leg, and that's even taking the normal RICE measures of rest, ice, elevate, compress, elevate. And at this point, I'd started to lose my ability to walk. This photo was taken 2 nights after the injury, and all the swelling is doing is getting bigger. It's not going down. Anything I do was making it go bigger. And as you can start to see, the ankle is starting to roll to the right where eventually it'll get stuck. And I've lost all ability of walking. The same week I injured myself, me, my dad, and my brothers, we went to Melbourne for the Grand Prix. I don't know if you've ever been on a plane in a moon boot with a swollen ankle. It's a pretty surreal feeling when it tightens and you haven't touched the straps. But anyway, I proceeded to do 25 Ks of walking in 3 days on what I didn't know was a really bad ankle. And this is what it looked like after that. As you can see, the swelling is increased massively, and it's bruised, it's pussy, it was the same color on the inside as it was on the outside. The day after that photo was taken, I lost all ability of walking. My ankle was rolled nearly all the way to the right and stuck, and I was on crutches for about 6 weeks. Some of you may have seen me here on crutches. Heck, some of you might have even come and taken them off of me to play with. I don't know for you guys, but sport and physical activities are a pretty major part of my life. And when that was taken away from me, I was frustrated and annoyed, to say the least. In this time of deprivation of normal physical abilities, it's so easy to turn to materialistic ways of the world to fulfill us. But is that what is best for us? If we don't lean on God through this time, there is a fair to good chance that something like an injury can quickly plague our mental health. The being stuck at home, the not being able to do what you normally can quickly make us restless. In this time of frustration, we can so easily veer from God's path and try and find a solution on our own. It's so easy to turn to our own understanding and ways of the world, because ways of the world are physical and can be instant. The whole idea of it being instant appeals to us. We're hurting now, and in the most part, we either want it fixed now or before we were even hurting. It's like instant meals. We're hungry now, and we'll chuck something in the microwave for 60 seconds, 2 minutes, and you'll solve your hunger there. But it's not good food. One day it might be good food, but I doubt it. Good food takes time to cook up properly. Just like we can't fix our problems instantly by turning to things like social media and its icons, video games, and over-relying on people. If we look to social media and its icons, we can start comparing ourselves to what we see. When you compare yourself, you can start asking yourself questions like, why am I not as well off as them? Why isn't their life falling apart? And why can't I be like them? These questions start becoming our priority, our struggle, and will hurt us mentally. By no means am I saying you shouldn't have social media. Just be careful with what you feed your mind. As NF said in his new song, The Search, which I highly recommend, the mind is a powerful place, and what you feed it can affect you in a powerful way. Video games can also be used as a source of instant help. They can be a lot of fun to play, especially if you're good at a particular game. But playing video games can quickly become bad as you isolate yourself away from what is going on. When you isolate yourself from everything, it will simply only get worse. You become frustrated, start taking your anger out on people online. Yes, it can make for a good YouTube video. I know we've all seen them, but is that how you want to be seen? Is that a good way to represent God? People can also be good for help as they can invest in you and help in the ways they can. Investment from people is good for you, but you shouldn't put your whole dependence on them. As frustrating as it can be when you're struggling, people have their own things going on like work, family events, school, who knows what else. So they can't necessarily always be there for you. And if you're in a place of struggle and hurting and they say no because they're busy, it can be very easy to take that no personally. I've done it myself. I've done it recently. It's not fun. Taking their no personally will only add to your frustrations and eat away at you. Turning to the Lord in times of deprivation is like taking your time to prepare that good meal. In the same way the meal will be will be nutritious for you and tasty, turning to the Lord and putting your dependence on Him is the best way to combat your deprivation and the struggles that come with it. It's hard to answer prayers when nobody's praying to you. As Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 6 goes, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him and He will make straight your paths. I think this verse puts it perfectly. Through our lives, whether that be through our actions or our words, we shouldn't lean on our own understanding but give it to the Lord. By giving it to the Lord, He'll make straight our paths, meaning that He'll be there with us and walk with us. As hard as you might think it'll be a lot smoother with the Lord by your side than by yourself. As my good friend Pastor Shu once said, don't tell God how big your problems are, tell your problems how big your God is. The one constant for me is through this injury has been the Lord. Through this difficult time of being injured, not being able to do my normal things, not being able to work has been hard, but giving it to the Lord has helped so much. The devil will use any sign of weakness and exploit it as much as possible. So when you're feeling deprived and depleted from things like school, work, social lives, or a bit of all of it, give it to the Lord. Don't give the enemy the chance he wants to affect you. The Lord will help combat your problems. And by no means am I saying that I am, or any of the leaders, or anyone for that sake, is perfect. We're human. We're bound to make a mistake. I've struggled to turn to God in the past. Through this time of injury, I've dealt with change in almost every major aspect of my life, and I've struggled to give it to God. And I wish I could say there wasn't more struggle coming, but the enemy will continue to pursue us to destroy our relationship with God. It hurts him when we depend solely on God, as that's what he's trying to stop us from doing. The Lord will help combat but through the challenges we face, God will grow us. When everything seems like it's fading away, when what you had is not what you have, when what you want isn't there and who you love isn't there, we can and must learn to depend on God now and always. Thank you.